What's going on, gentlemen? So I've been thoroughly enjoying my time with NBA 2K16, and that is an absolute phenomenal product. I have to say that I am really pleased with how they approached this game this year. I haven't played a game this much as far as sports game. I haven't played one this much in years, to be honest with you. Even compared to the time that I spent with NBA 2K15, I really didn't play that game nearly as much as I'm playing this new one. I mean, I had fun with it, but it had its issues. This year, man, those guys have really stepped up. They really took to heart the fact that they have competition, which brings me to the subject of this video. I want to really talk about how competition really brings out the best in people, or the best in teams and companies. I know we always compare 2K and EA, the companies, the game developing companies, but I want to talk about a comparison between the entities that they represent in their sports titles, which is the NBA and the NFL. And I want to talk about the differences between the two approaches that have been taken by these two giants of sports. The NBA, I have to say, man, hats off to those gentlemen. They didn't go into this route of giving any exclusive licenses as far as their brand. They allow competition within the video game arena, and that is why we have NBA 2K16. That's why that product is the way it is. It's a phenomenal product. It's a simulation representation of its sport, because they have competition. They have another company in EA that produces live, pushing them to put out their A game, and that's what it's all about. We often hear, like, I know what it was, Clint Oldenburg and Rex Dixon. Both of them dudes, they both claim they don't need competition to push them to do good things for Madden. They want us under this illusion that, it's going to take this or that amount of time. Let's be honest here. In any avenue of life, you're going to run up against some competition that's going to force you to do things different. It's going to force you to change up your stance, to speed up what you're doing, to do it better, to give your all. It's going to force you to dig deep. They don't have anything to force them to dig deep. Not a thing. They don't have a company that they have to measure themselves by like they did in the past. If you go back and look at Madden's history, they had companies, not just one company, but they had companies that pushed them to do innovative things. They didn't have a choice, and they also fed off of that innovation. They got a lot of their ideas off of those other companies. And I know some people out there, they want to say, oh well, this or that company stole this or that idea from this company or that company or whatever. Here's the thing, gentlemen. You want these companies to feed off of each other. You want them to take ideas from each other and take cues from each other, because that only gives us better products. Especially when you say things like, this or that game does this so much better and has this and does this, but then you turn around and complain if a competitive game takes a cue and says, oh well, those guys like that, let's implement that in our game. Then you say, oh well, they stole it. No, you like that mechanic, you should appreciate that the company is even thinking about using it to make the games better. But let me get back on track with this thing. The NBA didn't opt to go that Madden route. And thus, that's why we're getting this far superior representation of their sport. Far superior to that of football. And it's almost getting to a point, if you look on Twitter, if you pay attention to the videos, you pay attention to what people are talking about, it's almost making the video game version of football irrelevant. You don't hear a lot of people talking about Madden as much. You know, it's the chatter is getting old about that game. You know, I have a video series coming out, and I'm discussing Madden, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I am so much less enthused about doing that series right now than I've ever been. I really don't have the enthusiasm to even discuss that game, for the simple fact that NBA 2K16 has almost made that game irrelevant for me, and I'm assuming for a lot of other people, because you don't hear people talking about Madden. The problem with Madden is this: you don't have a game that accurately represents its sport on the level that 2K is doing their product. The NBA, in allowing competition, has allowed live to exist in order to push 2K to do their thing. And for you guys out there that are saying, oh, EA should just quit making live, live is irrelevant. No, let's get something clear here. Live is very relevant. It's relevant in the fact that it's a product that is not on the level of 2K, but it is improving, and it is forcing those gentlemen at Visual Concepts to step up their game and say, hey man, we don't want these guys catching up to us, so we got to step it up. We have to give it our all so that we stay in the front. We want to be the front runner for your money, for our product that represents this sport. That is why live is very relevant and very important. And I know, like I said, I know there's going to be some guys out there, nah man, we don't need live. Yeah, you do need live, because without live, you could very well be getting the same product over and over every year. Let's think about something. Let's say, for example, if the NBA decided, you know what, we're just going to give 2K our license. Well then, if 2K is the only basketball game out there, how long you think it'll be before they just stop innovating? It's not a matter of how, in that instance, it's not a matter of how talented those guys are and how innovative they are. It's a matter of bringing that out in them. And if you don't have competition to bring that out of them, then yeah, they don't have any reason to up the ante every year. They don't have any reason to make giant leaps. When you got competition, that forces you to make giant leaps. Madden doesn't have competition, so it makes baby steps. And the baby steps, the micro steps, they use that as an excuse of, oh well, we have to go and fix this mess that the other guys left for us. Yeah, you're pretty much saying that you're trying to undo a mess that was made for last generation. You're messing with spaghetti code. And if you don't know that term, go look up spaghetti code and find out what that is. Legacy code and spaghetti code. If you don't know those terms, look them up, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But that's why, to me, the NBA is far superior in their approach to video games than the NFL. The NFL, I don't know, they feel like that Madden is their chief representative. They don't want to put any other video game products on the market, so you're getting mediocrity, and we got people settling for mediocrity. As much as people want to give Madden the nod for these so-called improvements this year, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a lot of things in that game that are just a disaster, an absolute disaster. There are a lot of AI issues that are disastrous. There's still a horrible animation system underneath all these new animations that interfere with that game and destroy the immersion. You know, the physics are still not where they need to be. I mean, the list goes on and on about that game. But like I said, man, I really have to say hats off to the NBA for not caving into this idea that we just need one representative of our sport, because you don't. You need more than that. And like I said, gentlemen, live is relevant because it is breeding a competition to give us the best that we can get. So I'm not going to hate on live because I appreciate the fact that it exists. You should appreciate the fact that we still have sports competition. You know, the same way I'm sure that people that are into soccer appreciate the fact that you have FIFA and PES. Both games to push each other, to give their best, to get your money. You don't think people appreciate that? Absolutely they do. That's where you get your best, man. That's where you get your best out of these companies. Your best out of the talent. Same way when you play football. When I played football, man, I knew somebody was behind me trying to take my job. Hey, I got to give my best to stay on the field. If I want to remain a starter, I got to give my best. I got to perform. Or such and such is going to take my job. Same way with me being an artist. You know, you look at other people's work and say, hey man, damn, that dude's good. I got to up my game. That's just a part of life. That's a general part of life. But like I said, man, we have to appreciate what the NBA has done for us as a sporting brand. And as much as I hate to say it, man, but those guys have surpassed, you know, the NFL to me as far as the video game arena. Is really just taking me away from even thinking about football video games anymore, just for the fact that, you know, when I go play Madden, and I tried to play it the other day, man, and that game, it does so many silly things till it makes you just put it down immediately. You know, I started a game the other day, and just a bunch of silly stuff started happening. I was like, you know what? I could be playing 2K16 right now. And that's exactly what I did. I quit that game, went straight to 2K16, had a blast. I even lost the game. I got ran out of the building, and I had the best time of my life playing that game. Or one of the best times of my life. Not the best time, but you know what I mean. But yeah, you know, we have to think about these things. So there's just some thoughts I want to put out there before I put out my football series. I'm so glad that the NBA opted to allow competition to exist. Shame on the NFL for doing the opposite. They have taken away choice from us. They have forced us to consider settling for mediocrity. A lot of people have. It's just like shouts out to Live Mob. He even made a video talking about that subject where he said that what if NBA Live was the only basketball game, and would people defend it the same way they defend Madden? And it's true, they probably would, because you don't have anything else to measure by. You know, if 2K16 or NBA 2K didn't exist at all, you would swear up and down that Live was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you would swear on your life that 2K probably couldn't do better. The same way that people do right now about football. But see, the trick of it is you don't know what they can do unless you actually see them do it. If the NFL allowed 2K to make a game, then you'd have your definitive answer. But we don't get that. And it's a shame. But, like I said, man, reality is reality. Madden is mediocre. It's the sole representative. 2K is a far superior product. It has upped the ante for all sports titles in my view. Because anytime you can make another sport irrelevant, that's pretty damn good. So that's just my thoughts. If you got anything to say, man, leave it in the comments section. Let's get this thing discussed and have some fun talks about it. You can catch up with me on Twitter, and I'll holler at you fellas later. Peace.